Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, bringing you a 2012 team preview for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to start with their offense to see what we can expect from Pittsburgh this upcoming season.
It amazes me that a guy like Ben Roethlisberger is always left off these top quarterbacks in the league type of list. When you look at this guy's resume, all he does is win. He produces. He wins Super Bowls. He has 2 of them. He wins a lot of playoff games, and he's probably going to end up with 2 more Super Bowls before his career is over with. When you look at Ben Roethlisberger as a whole, you see a football player that just so happens to play quarterback. And you give me a guy like this, I guarantee I'll win you a lot of ball games. And they do have some solid depth behind them with Charlie Bass, the veteran, that guy that never gets old, and also Byron Leftwich. So the Steelers are fine at the quarterback position. Pittsburgh may be without the services of its top tailback Rashard Mendenhall for the start of the season due to the fact that he tore an ACL late in the season, the last game of the season, so he still may be recovering from that. But they do have some solid depth. Isaac Redman is a guy that performed well in that role last year, so I don't think the Steelers will see a drop-off. Redman may not be as explosive as Mendenhall, but he can get the job done and move the chains. I want you guys to keep an eye on Baron Batch. Last year was injured, came out of Texas Tech, that has a lot of explosiveness. John Clay is another depth guy, and also Jonathan Dwyer. So the Steelers have some depth there. They may not be explosive. They may not give you what Mendenhall can give you as a healthy running back, but they will give you production, and that's all the Steelers need to keep the running game on pace. When you look at Mike Wallace and you instantly want to talk about his speed as, oh, he's just a fast guy, but you got to look at what his speed does to a defense. One, it takes the top off of a defense. When people use that term, they're talking about the ability to get down the field as fast as possible, thus opening up everything else for every one of the receivers to get open. They have more room to work because Mike Wallace is occupying 2 guys because of his speed. And 2, he can dictate coverage. When you play off against Mike Wallace, he has the speed to eat up the cushion, and he also has the speed to leave you. So it limits you as a defense to what you can do against a guy like that. And that's why you see guys like Antonio Brown having success, Emmanuel Sanders having success, and they have a possession guy that has to replace Hines Ward and Jericho Cotchery. Although Hines Ward was a huge leader, future Hall of Famer in my book, they have to replace him. Now at the tight end position, I think they're very solid. They bring over Leonard Pope. They team him up with Heath Miller, one of the more underrated tight ends in the league. So the Pittsburgh Steelers go into this year with the same solid receiving core I think they've had for the last couple of years, minus the leadership of Hines Ward. Getting Willie Colon back is a huge asset to the Steelers' offensive line. They just hope that he can stay out there for 16 games. And on the flip side, you got Marcus Gilbert, the second-year guy out of Florida. I really like what I see out of this young player. He can play left or right tackle. But you look at what they were able to do in the draft, getting Mike Adams out of Ohio State. I had this guy with the 1st-round grade. The Steelers were able to get him in the 2nd round. So they got a steal, in my opinion. And he has the versatility to play left or right tackle. So that's a huge asset, a huge insurance policy in case Cologne misses another bunch of games due to injury. But you look at the center position. Marquise Pouncey arguably is the best center in the league. What they did next to him was outstanding. They got probably the best steal in the draft, in my opinion, getting David DeCastro out of Stanford. When you talk about owning the line of scrimmage, athleticism, and doing the best job you can do on the interior, that accurately describes DeCastro, and the Steelers instantly got better on the interior. And they have another guard, Ramon Foster, does a great job as well, holding his own at the point of attack. And Doug Legursky goes to a backup position. He could play guard or center, so it gives the Steelers a lot of depth and versatility on their offensive line. Everyone wants to think the Steelers are in bad shape on their defensive line with the age and injury concern. You have Casey Hampton coming off an ACL injury late in the season. He's in his 12th year. You have Brett Kiesel, his 11th year out of BYU. But I think the Steelers actually have prepared themselves for this. They've drafted well. Cameron Haywood, they drafted out of Ohio State a couple years. He had a little bit of spot duty as a rookie, so he should still see more increased time in year 2. Ziggy Hood is a guy they drafted a couple years ago out of Missouri. He started 14 games, and so he's going to be competing for a starting spot. And I like what they did in the draft this year. Another steal. Alameda Tiamau out of Washington, 6'3", 348 pounds, has a lot of athleticism for his size and does a great job of stuffing and running. So in my opinion, I think the defensive line is young, talented. They just have to go out and prove themselves on the field. Losing James Farrior will be a tough loss, and they're going to lose a lot of leadership. But this is a team that doesn't rebuild. They actually reload at the linebacking position. When you look at guys like Lawrence Timmons, he's versatile. Not only can he play on the inside, he can play on the outside as well, and that gives you a lot of versatility, a lot of scheme versatility on your defense. Larry Foote is a thumper in the middle, does a great job of stopping the run. Lamar Woodley on the outside, if he can shake his hamstring injuries that plagued him last year, you know he's going to be a force and collapse in the pocket and getting pressure. And you still have the bully on the opposite side, James Harrison. You know he can get to the quarterback, and he's made his, 5th Pro Bowl last season. But I look at the depth on his roster. I look at what they have in place. They bring in Sean Spence from Miami, 5'11", 231 pounds. Don't sleep on this guy's size. He has a lot of speed, and he can also hit as well. Jason Worrells has to step up his game and step up his play, but he has talent coming out of Virginia Tech. And I like what I see out of Stevenson Sylvester. He was injured last year, but keep an eye on this guy. He also has some talent. The Steelers secondary also suffered the same fate as the defensive line. People quick to talk about how old these guys are and can they still produce. I actually think so, because again, like the defensive line, they prepared themselves for this by drafting talented players. Cornerback Ike Taylor enters his 10th year in the league, and that's impressive. This guy does a great job in run support and has improved his pass coverage each and every year, which is why he's able to sustain success in the league. On the other side, you have Keenan Lewis. Keep an eye on this guy, 4th year out of Oregon State. He was a nickelback, but I think he has an opportunity to come in and be a starter opposite of Ike Taylor. And there's some quality depth behind those two guys. I like Cortez Allen. They drafted him a couple years ago out of the Citadel. And you also look at Walter McFadden. Some say he may not stick. I've liked him since he was in college. I think he has an excellent opportunity. You also have Curtis Brown as well out of Texas. So there's some depth at corner. The safety position, you know you have to start with Troy Polamalu. The quarterback of that defense does a great job of flying around the field and eliminating mistakes. But don't ignore the contributions that Ryan Clark made. Pro Bowl season, you saw how much they missed him in that playoff game against Denver. So Ryan Clark, Troy Polamalu formed one of the better safety combos in the league. And also Ryan Mundy got some valuable minutes last year. So now they have depth in the secondary. So again, this secondary may look like a weakness, may look like they're getting old, but there's talent behind the front line starters, and I think they're well prepared going into 2012. It's easy to be optimistic if you're a Steelers fan. Reason why: the defense is still intact. The offense will still be big playmaking type of passing game, grinded out on the ground. And as long as this team stays healthy, they're back in the playoffs. So you have to be optimistic if you're a Steelers fan, if you're a Steelers brass. You look at what you did last year. You saw the injuries really curtail your success last season. And I think this year, if they stay healthy, I know health you can't predict, but if they stay healthy, they're one of the better teams in the league. The cause for concern has to be Todd Haley and that new offense. How will they adapt to Ben Roethlisberger's skill set? Will he want Roethlisberger to do something he's not comfortable? Will Roethlisberger want to accept the change? That's the biggest question. It's going to take a couple of weeks to figure that out, but I think that could be a concern for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Pittsburgh finishes 3rd in the AFC North right now. I'm just not comfortable with a team going to a new offensive attack under a new coordinator when they've been doing the same thing for so long at a high level. So that's some questions I have going to the season. Plus, they might be without Rashard Mendenhall for the beginning part, but at least you're going to get him healthier toward the end. But if that offensive line stays in place and everyone returns to their normal health, the Steelers can find themselves back in the playoffs. But right now, I got them finishing 3rd.